Oh, what's going on, everybody? Welcome in. It's the Full Tilt Dynasty podcast presented by Underdog Fantasy, Season 2, Episode 11. This is round 2 of the rookie countdown. Going to try to keep it under, an hour and 50 this time. We'll see. Not gonna stop the good times. That's
My
for damn
bedtime's
sure.
knocking.
Yeah, I know. We're a little later today, just some time shifts, but here we are. We got some pretty badass stuff today. We got picks 15 through 11. We have a new show announcement. We have a new member announcement. Pretty fucking stoked about that. Got some other things in the works coming up. We've got the Saquan Barkley jersey giveaway, which I will remind everyone how to get on earlier in the show. While everyone is still 100% listening. We haven't got enough entries for this, people. For fuck's sakes, it's not hard, right? You go, you sub. You're already listening. Just scroll up. Hit the subscribe button or the follow or notification button, right? Take a screenshot of it and just comment. Send it to us and you're in. That's all you have to do. Just do that up and you're in. I'll further explain that more. We haven't got enough of that. Let's chip chop. Look, guys, I am your host with the most time on his hands. I am Thomas Tipple. You can find me at Thomas Tipple FF. And since Tom Lee has joined the show in the clip that I rolled last week, we have now added 4 new members for 4 different jobs on the Full Tilt Dynasty podcast. Billy.
Oh, I thought there was.
I thought that was an announcement. I didn't know that was like the.
Yeah,
that was your fun fact.
That's my fun
All
fact.
right, we're starting off strong. You show up 15 minutes late and everyone's asleep. All right, I'm Billy. You can find me on Twitter at BigBillyFF. I really have no other place to say this or talk about this, and I'm notoriously face blind, so this could just be an awful take. But only
what does that even mean?
Matt Corral's player profiler picture looks like Miguel Diaz from Cobra Kai. And every time I click on it, I have to immediately rewind myself. And it's only that picture. No other Matt Corral looks like him. Just that one picture.
Oh my goodness. Okay. So we've got
my name is Jakob Sanderson. You can find me on Twitter at FF_RTDB. And I just Googled Miguel Diaz, Cobra Kai. And he does indeed look like Matt Corral.
Thank you.
What does face blind mean?
I have this long ass history of me thinking 2 people look alike, and they just don't.
You know what? Aaron makes fun of me for that all the time.
Forever. It's a running joke in my family.
I'm now dropping a link to his Google Images photo.
Yeah.
In the private chat.
Okay. Well, now I have to see.
Billy's got a point.
Thank you.
Yeah,
but it's only that picture. His player profiler one is exact. Then every other one, if you look at Matt Corral, none of them are him at all.
That is uncanny.
Thank you. Guys, this means so much. I'm so excited.
No. You tell your family that we got you. That's how it is.
Thank you.
Fact check live on air. Yeah, we have to, because if we don't fact check it, we can't call him out on his bullshit later, right? We got to cover our bases here, guys. The live draft show this year is shaping up to be unbelievable. I think we're at 21 guests already. Some returning from last year, and we've got some new ones on there too. Just unbelievable list of people popping up already, and we have more on the way. Look, I mentioned in the beginning that we added another member. And
wait. Doesn't Jacob get a fun fact?
My fun fact was that
he fact checked you.
Okay.
We're rolling today. We are.
And then you're correct.
I was just trying to give my guy a chance. I just want to make sure he got it. He got his play.
That's good enough fact. Good enough fact.
We are absolutely on a roll today, guys. We noticed that there was a part of fantasy football that was missing from our program after our conversations with Alfred Fernandez of C2C.com, and I thought there's someone I know that just all they post about and all we've talked about is college prospects that not a lot of people have heard of. I know myself, I don't live and die for the college football streets, but this year, with a new look at a new ditty on the broadcast, I'm gonna have to. I will be now hosting the Full Tilt Devy podcast on the Full Tilt Dynasty Podcast Network with new Full Tilt Dynasty podcast member Andy Starr. If you want to follow Andy Starr, welcome aboard, big man. That is A Star with 2 R's, FF on the Bird app. Go check him out. He's going to be running the show with me. I can't wait. I'm excited. We've already started putting it together. It's going to be fantastic. And I'm, again, going to be completely out of my element. Not that I am in my element just talking about fantasy, because Jesus Christ, if you're listening to me and putting your money on the line, I got to tell you, that's risky. But hey, I rely on my counterparts here for the info. I'm just here to talk into here and make sure I push all the right buttons and not be muted when I come online. So Full Tilt Devy podcast. Happy to announce that. You can look for that right around draft time, because once the draft ends, well, it's on the next year's and the years after that prospects. So cannot wait to kick that off, man. That's great. Before we get into our countdown, does anyone else have anything they would like to hit before we get into prospect 15 on our list?
No, I thought I had some run back from last week, but as I'm remembering it, I don't think I do. So
you have no run back. All right, no big fantasy news. Devante Parker got traded. That's
interesting. Oh yeah, that one felt good. Good for him.
Well, yeah, legit. So actually, the league where we all met, I traded for Devante Parker the day after the startup, which was February 26th of 2020. And
you have that league I can get it, but I feel like that's
and this league has now been like for 2 years. It was like, but I don't even know what it was, because it was like a first for Parker and a second, but like I don't even know like where the first was, where the second was, whatever. But point is, I traded for Parker the day after the startup from an airport in Israel. And then this is the league where
I forgot that's where we met.
The second league that Tom and I were doing in Dynasty. It's where we met Billy. It was off of a Foot Clan forum league. And then anyway, I make a million Dynasty trades. Like, this isn't the most active league in the world, but like it's active enough.
It used to be.
It used to be much more active. And
yeah, but then Monty traded all of his pieces now, so no one has trades to make.
Like Devante, I don't have a single player on my team from the startup. So Devante Parker was by far the longest tenured player on my roster. And Billy posted in our Slack chat after the Parker trade, he could be a PPR steal. And then I bullied him into backing up that comment by trading me a 3rd round pick.
That was fine. Whatever.
So for the record,
I'm not going to get angry. If I lose on that trade, my hit rate on 3rd round picks is notoriously awful. Anthony McFarland. See the rest of the list.
There's really no losing or winning on that trade, but I do think it'd be really fun if I like somehow hit on a Hall of Famer from the 304. And
what if Parker turns his career around with Mac Daddy Jones? Like,
although if you hit on a Hall of Famer from the 304, there's 100% chance I trade him away before he ever like.
Oh, he'll be gone 3 weeks into the year if he
he'll have
well.
2 good games.
Also,
we'll trade him for a 23-second. Call it a profit.
In this league, exactly. Tom Lee has won. So, shout out to Tom Lee. Where I believe that's the league where we met Tom Lee as well.
It is, yeah. And Tom Lee has beaten me in the championship 2 consecutive years.
It's tough sledding.
So there's been 100% full tilt representation. Tom Lee continues to beat me in the finals. I got 3rd last year. Bridesmaids. This year it's time for revenge, Tom Lee. I'm coming for your ass. And maybe one of these years, I've had Christian McCaffrey on this roster, by the way. Like, I have had McCaffrey on this roster since week 1 of the first game that was played in this Dynasty League. I'm pretty sure he's given me like 6 games. Like, it's the fact that I've even made the final both years with McCaffrey, I find impressive, but he triggers me so much because he's just never available for assistance.
One thing we should mention is the Eagles-Saints trade, I think, because I think that's going to shake the draft up a little bit. Teams might start to get desperate to trade up for these not looking so great quarterbacks. Jacob, I know you were on a tweet bonanza about it earlier in the week here. Thoughts on the pod about the trade, or is it just like bewildering how well Philly takes care of these picks?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just really interested to see what New Orleans does. Like, the first take that I saw coming out of it, and I, by the way, like, I don't think this is wrong. Like, it was kind of my first thought too, but my first thought was, they want to position themselves to be able to trade up for a quarterback. And that could be, but like it's really weird that they were like, let's lose value on a trade so that we're better positioned. Like imagine in our Dynasty league, right? Like if I go to Tom, I'm like, hey Tom, man, I wanna like get this player. And then you're like, okay, sure. But you see those good assets you have? Trade them to Billy for some worse assets, and then we can do a deal. Like that's just kind of like how it seemed to me. So I don't know if that's what's gonna happen. I guess like if that's what they needed to do to get a trade done and they want to move up for a quarterback, like pretty much the only time I don't flame teams for trading up in the NFL draft is for a quarterback. So if New Orleans has a quarterback that they want to trade up for, I can't really hate on that, even if I don't like the quarterback pick. Like it's just, if you hit on a quarterback, it's such a big win. But if they are not, like if they're just trading up to just like get a dude and just putting a second and third round pick on their credit card, I don't love it.
No, go ahead.
My favorite Madden trade that I came up with 30 seconds that I thought of for like 30 seconds before I was immediately like, that's the dumbest fucking trade I've ever heard, was the Saints calling up the Jaguars and offering their 2 firsts and Michael Thomas for 101.
Oh God!
I was cracking up laughing at the idea of that. Like, just immediately.
This is what I don't understand. They signed Winston to 2 years, right? This is why I don't think it'll be for a quarterback. I think they're going offensive line to replace Armstead, and I think they're going wide receiver because they paid Winston his 2 years. He's going to be there for 2 years. The guaranteed money looks like it's 2 years. They signed Dalton. They tell Taysom Hill he's done. Why, in my opinion, on a roster that's good, defense was good. The team was fine for like most of the year last year. I think they're going for it this year with these 2 picks. I really do. Like, I think it was Vegas has Thibodeau dropping outside of the top 10 right now. He might slide. They take him if he's there. Like, there's going to be a really good offensive lineman there. There's going to be receivers there
at 15 because the Ravens are going to take him at 14.
Tom's
going to need a moment. Billy and I are going to have to host the draft show for 20 minutes because Tom's going to be cleaning up his towel.
If the Ravens draft Thibodeau, this is going to become a very rated R program very quickly because it'll be darts off, and I'll be ready for a Tilly, 100%. If he is available and he's not there.
To talk about like that, I see 2 separate takes on this, and it's kind of exactly what both of y'all just said. One, they're acquiring assets this year to trade up and get what they think is their best player because the Saints have a history of doing that. They love a guy, go up, get him. Yeah. Maybe that's Malik Willis. That's a fun one. But like it's an interesting circumstance. I think we all can agree that I don't think the Saints are 2 offensive pieces away from making a deep playoff run.
No.
I don't think they're 2 offensive pieces away from winning their division. So like, and especially on like the O-line talk, what O-lineman is going to be there? Penning? Because
you slide Penning right in at left.
Aquanu, they're all going to be gone.
Yeah.
Like,
so slide Penning right in at left and replace Armstead, or you can move Ramczyk. Like it's.
Yeah, I don't know any of these guys. I'm waiting till the morning of the draft to research everyone and then still kick ass with
just know.
Shut up with the picks.
We got 9 in a row or whatever. That's all you need to know.
But they have Tyrann Mathieu in the building, right? They're gonna try to make sure he doesn't leave. They sign him. Then they have Marcus May and Mathieu. Now they need an edge rusher, and then they draft an offensive lineman. Even if they think Michael Thomas is coming back, that's like drafting a receiver in the first round. So I don't know. I don't see them moving up for a quarterback. I don't.
The Saints do this stuff, right? Like the Saints do like weird things all the time, right? I mean, they're like
salary cap gods.
Shouldn't be surprising, right? Like the Saints like constantly get themselves into cap hell, push it down the road. I mean, they traded a first round pick to move up like 10 spots for Marcus Davenport, like just a few years ago. Like they always do weird things. And Davenport's a really good player, but like they're just not a team that's ever shown to care about cost. Like they're like we want player X and we want him now.
That's
and
true.
Like they've never been a team that's afraid to overpay. So it's not.
And Dennis Allen's the defensive coach, if I'm not mistaken. So they could even be just drafting. They could be looking for an edge rusher or corner. They could draft a corner. I don't know, man.
They scream taking, because I don't think Pickett and Willis are there for him. They scream taking whatever their favorite of the other 3 QBs
Ritter.
are.
I could see Ritter.
The only thing that's weird about that is like, why are you signing Andy Dalton then if you're considering drafting a quarterback? Like,
that's another thing.
What did they sign Andy Dalton for?
Like
$4 million. Backup money. Yeah, backup money.
Like, but $4 million to the Saints, like that's like.
Can I just?
They don't run exactly
1 year, $3 million.
They're the number one team with cap space right now.
Yeah, but why are you
Thank
even
you very much?
Why are you even signing like anyone though? Like, I don't know. It's just weird. Like,
can I just? Before we move on, can I just state I want to shout out Blake Bortles on this podcast.
Dude, walk the fuck out.
They signed Dalton, and Blake Bortles is like, "Fuck you, release me. I'm gonna go be a number 2 somewhere else." Shout out to you, man. He's the GOAT. He's gonna wind up as a number 2 in the XFL or the USFL or whatever. I just wanted to point that out because I think that's hilarious. All right, we
got to get started because we went way too long last time and we were already off the rails.
Well, Dodson.
Look. Oh, thanks, Billy. Thanks. All right. Thanks.
I only have to show the graphic.
I have the video set up. All right. Now that Billy's ruined it, we're gonna take a second. Billy's running the show when we come back.
We're definitely not talking about Jahan Dotson.
We're not talking about Jahan Dotson. Billy's fired. Here's hopefully. Look, hopefully this clip is gonna play correctly this time, and not lag out for whatever reason. But here's a clip or an attempted clip at what our live rookie draft show looked like just a year ago. And how far we've come. We're going to try to make this work this time. All right. We'll be back in a second.
Like you can't come onto a podcast on draft day in a Packers toque and then not expect to get roasted. All right. Like you need to RELAX. The people in the chat are going to have some fun poking the Billy today. All right. That's what's going to happen. Y'all are screwed.
Did anyone place a bet over under on how many times Billy changes his shirt just from sweating, just coming through, waiting for the every notification is Don't worry, we're here for you, Billy. You can cry in our shoulders virtually. I just again cannot believe how far we've come as a program. Just the way it looks. I was running through my OBS back in the day. Jacob's hair wasn't Trevor Lawrence flowing, right?
Billy's how to center myself in this frame, so you're not just staring down at my gut the entire time.
Yeah, man. It just we've come a long way, and I'm really proud of it. So as you can tell, Dotson's not on the screen yet, but we're whatever. All right, here we go.
We're not going to talk about Dodson. I don't know who we're going to talk about.
Oh
my God, it's Jahan Dotson.
It would have been a really good setup if I said just some random player.
Yeah, that would have been better. All right, guys, look, 22-year-old Dotson.
Talking about Jack Cohn.
Yeah. Last year, he had 91 receptions for 1,182 yards. Pretty fucking good. 30% target share, 62% catch rate, 12 touchdowns, and he even contributed 104 special teams yard. Look, just right out the gate, athlete is a stretch for him. His 40-yard dash was 85th percentile. His speed score was less, spectacular at 36. Then his burst score is a mid 53rd. But as I keep hearing, athleticism does not matter at wide receiver as much. So, guys, I called Dotson Rieger 2.0. I realized that I was probably a little bit too harsh. He can throw the ball for anyone watching the clip. I think he's fine, but a lot of talk of him going in the first round now. I also want to point out that he did all this with a absolute ass-tacular quarterback. So shout out to him. I think 14 might be one of the worst quarterbacks I've ever watched play the sport. So guys, Dotson, where are you at? How do you feel? Do you think the first round capital is warranted? Are you steering clear? What's up? I'm going to go. Jacob looks like he wants to chime in real quick.
Sure. Yeah, so I've seen some talk about like his pro day being disappointing. It wasn't great. I think I've heard some people that expect him to run the low 4.3s, or a combine. Sorry if I said pro day, but I'll read off some names. Like he is totally within the size speed range of plenty of players who have been really successful NFL players. Elijah Moore, 5'9", 178, 4.4 flat. We got T.Y. Hilton, 5'9", 183, 4.39. Emmanuel Sanders, 5'11", 180, 4.41. Definitely plenty of guys who've had really strong NFL careers within that sort of size, speed range. Deontay Johnson, another one, 5'10", 183. Actually was even slower, ran a 4.53. So I'm not worried about that. What I think with Dodson is like, he's kind of fine. He's like the opposite of how I felt about David Bell and Wan'Dale Robinson last week, where these were guys I was like, I really want to love these guys. I want to draft them everywhere, but I'm really concerned about their draft capital. And like specifically, Dodson is a guy I've been talking about a lot in relation to any startups that are drafting rookies now, any early rookie drafts for you psychos, and people doing best ball tournaments and stuff where you have to factor in the rookies, because Bell has been going ahead of Dodson for the vast majority of the offseason. And I've been saying, yeah, I like David Bell better. Like, he looks better on my spreadsheet to me. We put up a little stats there with the yards per team pass attempt. Bell's the early declare. He was above threshold every single year. Dodson, late breakout, late declare, kind of looks like the profile that tends to not hit very often among those drafted in the first round. But he's probably going to be drafted in the first round. Worst case, early second round. This year, that's especially interesting because guess who's picking in the back of the first round? Green Bay, twice. Kansas City, twice. Like, I think Dodson is a guy who I'm all over now. You know, if he actually goes to Green Bay or Kansas City and all of a sudden he's going at like the 1.07 or 1.08 of rookie drafts, am I going to be excited? Probably not. But would I love to have a few Dodson shares now at cheaper value? Absolutely. So I've been drafting Dodson so much that he's actually my most drafted player on Underdog Best Ball right now at 55%, because he's drafted in like the 18th round in redraft, which is wild to me. But we'll see. In terms of if he gets that first round capital, he doesn't excite me. You can see here he has one really nice year, third year, and then senior year, you know, still was underneath, even despite that 30% target share and the 90 catches. So.
And of course, not an early declare, which this is something
not an early declare, which
at home on the Bird app.
I put in. It seems they didn't sneak in, but like other 4-year first round players that were on this beautiful chart that I labored just for minutes creating. John Ross, Corey Davis, Mike Williams. Dodson is like
the other one.
That one did make it. We're just talking when it popped up.
Oh, well, anyway, if you can pull it up. But Dodson is actually like, he's like slightly worse Olave, I think, is like the best way I would put it, who we'll talk about Olave later, but they have a lot of similarities in their profile.
Yeah, man.
Here's other senior declare round 1 wide receivers. I don't know why I included Campbell on there. He was round 2, but
threw Josh Dodson in there just because of name similarity.
Yeah. But as you can see, like, I didn't like go out of my way by the way to like find shitty ones. I just like went through round 1 senior declare wide receivers of the last handful of years, and it's a little scary. You can see the names here, like Brandon Ayuk, decent. Devante Smith looks really good. Mike Williams, decent. But certainly some scary ones here too.
Billy, do you have a strong Dodson take, or do you feel like this is just kind of where he belongs?
No, this is Dodson and one of the other guys we're going to talk about later today. I won't spoil it because apparently I'm hitting a bone on that. I'm sorry. I'm
going to tell Patrick to have a conversation with you, buddy.
It hurts me because I want to have strong opinions on these guys, but like a lot of these guys kind of boil down to, we know what they profile as. We know potentially where they're going to go, and we have a good sense of what they're able to do. And there isn't a lot that I can say John Dodson does significantly better than anyone else in this class. Like, I don't think he obviously doesn't have the size of someone like London or Burks. I personally don't think he has like that next level of route running that makes you just irrelevant to whatever your speed is. He doesn't really have that like top end speed. He has decent speed. I have no argument with his. It's like
fine. Yep.
Yeah. He was a track star in high school, but I have no like real takeaways from Dodson. I legitimately think he's going to be good. I think he's going to be a value in the top end of your second round of your rookie drafts if he can get there. But like, I really have nothing to like take away from this guy. Like it felt like going into this draft process, one of the first takes we always heard was there's a lot of the same guy in this class. A lot of, and it was specifically in the running back position, but there was a little bit of this take at wide receiver. And this was before the combine where some of the guys stood out with their speed, athleticism, but just a lot of the same kind of player. And Jahan Dotson is one of those players who fit into that mold, but didn't blow up at the combine or didn't like get these really great hype piece coming out of scouts, coming out of their coaches. Like that, nothing crazy came out about him. And because of that, he kind of just fell to the wayside because all these other players, Olave and Dotson, were favored as probably similar prospects coming in. Then Olave ran a 4.26 that went down to a 4.39. But like Dotson just didn't blow up in any of these kind of big parts of the process. So it feels like he kind of just ends whatever tier he's in right now at wide receiver. And then the guys that are above him are similar prospects who just perform better in the draft process, I think. So I have nothing crazy to think about him. I think there's a legitimate chance he's going to KC or Green Bay at the back of the first, which would be awesome. I'd love that. But I have no strong takes on him as a player.
I think he's probably one of the players that's the most likely to really we have him right now as the 203 rookie pick. He gets that first round draft capital. That dude's shooting up into the first round of the rookie draft. And I don't think that's 100%. Really like he has the ability to go from this 203 spot to an easy 110 just by the Packers calling his name in the first round.
And I think it's I think it's a legitimate chance that someone just likes Dotson more in your draft, and he's going 100%.
100%. I agree. I think that he has a real shot to jump. I think the next receiver we're going to talk about for me, even before the draft, because remember, we're doing this before we had really any information. We had basic information. These rankings have pretty much all changed for us since, but it was way too much to just shift them last second. But I think Dotson has a real legitimate chance of just shifting this whole thing.
Dave in the chat's asking Dotson or David Bell. And I mean, I feel like I'm going to have to record my voice just saying the same thing every time I get a David Bell question because it never changes. Yeah. If David Bell goes round 2, then no matter where Dotson goes, I would prefer David Bell. If David Bell goes round 3, then I would prefer Jahan Dotson.
Okay, let's say if round 2 David Bell lands in a shit situation. Let's say round 2 David Bell Philadelphia or round 1 Dotson Kansas City.
I'd argue that's a good situation.
Yeah, I mean, I would just at that point,
not a good situation at all.
I don't really care. I guess I would still prefer Bell because I like the profile more. But I mean, I know that there will be a pretty significant ADP gap. So in that situation where there's an ADP gap, I'm just not going to make really egregiously bad picks at ADP. I just feel like I'll end up with more Bell than I will with Dotson just based on how it shakes out. If Dotson gets picked by KC in the end of the first round, I highly doubt I'll be drafting a lot of Jahan Dotson where he'll be going at ADP. I'll probably just be trading out, trading back, whatever, or I'll be taking other players. But it's not like I'll be pressing David Bell at the 1.8. I'll probably just be taking someone else in that scenario. I don't know.
I do want to give Jacob credit here because I think he nailed it with one of his comparisons. Is he legitimately feels like Elijah Moore for this year? Like Elijah Moore last year, he was getting some hype, but it felt like his where he ranked in the draft process, he was kind of just the odd one out. There was this huge tier of really good prospects, and then Elijah Moore, when he's in the back of the first, I'll take Elijah Moore. I have no problem. But it feels like he's kind of just the odd one out of this upper tier of 8 guys that we're looking at this wide receiver position.
That's true.
Yeah, that's my best take on Jahan Dotson. Do I think he belongs in that tier? 100%. Do I feel comfortable saying I'd take him over anyone else in that tier? No.
Okay, that's fair. Again, not too strong of an opinion. We obviously value him kind of mid, right? I would take him over all of the round 2, like projected round 2 running backs, except for maybe Spiller. And if you don't think Spiller is going to fall, you got to. There's a train coming your way because he's going to fall out of the second and possibly late into the 3rd round of the rookie draft. Believe that.
In rookie drafts? No, dude.
What? No. In the NFL rookie draft.
Oh, okay. I was like, going in the 3rd round of
very good chance Spiller does not make it into the top 3 rounds come NFL draft day. And you can at me if you want to, but I'm just saying.
Yeah. Our consensus rank on Jahan Dotson is putting him at the 203 right now, and I think that's perfect.
Yeah, like I said, and once the DC comes in, this is all going to change. But I just wanted to point out that I think that Dotson has the best chance to move up like 5-6 spots just on landing spot alone. So I think he is the biggest mover with landing spot. Look, when we come back, Jacob's going to hit you with some underdog fantasy information. And we're going to get into our next player that Billy's not going to ruin. So sit tight. I'll ruin the picks for us when we come back. And just enjoy the next clip here. I think it's a good one.
If Antonio Brown was not a head case, he would be a top 5 dynasty receiver last year. Yeah. When people were talking about how to value Antonio Brown, I was like, he looks like the kind of player that's going to have top 5 seasons kind of in perpetuity. And that we haven't even seen any inkling that he's declining.
He was possibly the best wide receiver in the NFL last year when he was healthy. He's insane and he got hurt, but he was like literally like incredible. Yeah,
like I wouldn't even think twice. He'd be in my consideration in the 2nd round of a dynasty startup. If I knew that he had, we talked about Lockett before, just a man of the people. If he had Tyler Lockett's disposition, he'd be a 2nd round startup pick.
Can Antonio Brown find God?
Seriously. He's been calling God. We just need him to find him.
Oh my God. Man, what a fun show that was with Josh Larkey. At the time, his last day at Player Profiler. Shout out to him for his job at FTN, just doing a fantastic job with his skills. You can go and check that episode out everywhere else where you get the Full Tilt Dynasty podcast. And then when you go and check out that podcast, you can hit subscribe, you can rate, and you can comment, and you can take a picture, and you can send it to us, and you can get yourself into the Saquan Barkley jersey giveaway. Everyone listening to the show should be going and doing that. We're paying for the shipping. We're paying for everything. Just all you got to do, just take that picture and do the shout out. It'll be all
I'm going to enter.
Yeah, you should enter. Jacob.
I probably shouldn't. I know the answer.
I know you've been drafting on the best ball streets as always. What do you have coming our way from Underdog?
Yeah, like if you're listening to this show, remembering on about draft capital, and you're like, why does this even matter? I'm not one of those total psychopaths. My rookie draft is after the NFL draft, like a normal person. Go right now. And what we got to fill content somehow. What I would also say is that you could go on Underdog and you could take advantage of these nuggets. Right? Oh, Jahan Dodson is pretty undervalued because he's probably going to get drafted higher than you think, and he's going to go to a really nice spot. You get to go, how do I take advantage of that? You go on underdog.com, and then you see that Jahan Dodson is being drafted in the 18th round in seasonal leagues. And if Jahan Dodson goes to the Green Bay Packers or the Kansas City Chiefs, he will not be going in the 18th round in seasonal leagues. I promise you that. He'll probably be going in the 8th round in seasonal leagues. And so you can go and do what I did, and you can draft Jahan Dodson shares at really, really great value. The same thing with Christian Watson's shares, or someone that we may or may not talk about later, George Pickens shares, or Skye Moore shares, or any of these guys who are kind of going in the round 1, round 2, and are really, really cheap on Underdog. I think that's the biggest edge right now, is drafting the 2nd tier of rookie wide receivers. The guy was a little bit we talked about last week, guys we're talking about tonight, guys we're talking about next week. And if you want to do that, you can do that with a fancy little deposit match. Tom, tell us the details if they want free money.
Well, look, if you're wondering what all this ADP, Underdog, best ball stuff even is, well, you can get locked in. If you use promo code Full Tilt when you're signing up for the first time and you deposit $100 or less, Underdog is just going to double your money for signing up with us. That's huge for you and us. You help us out, and Underdog is going to help you out by helping you win some money. Win some money with us. You will get access to private drafts, which we will be hosting throughout the year. When you tune in to Jacob's Saturday or whatever day of the week it's going to end up being this year, weekly DFS show, oh my God, you are going to get the top tier information that you need to capitalize. And you can do all that with Underdog in the Full Tilt Dynasty podcast. Why wouldn't you? You're already here listening. You might as well play along with us. So go to Underdog Fantasy. You can download the app. You can go on the website, use promo code Full Tilt, get your deposit match, and have a great time. Guys, on the board, quite obviously, is number 14. This is Mr. Matt Corral. And I just want to say...
Diaz.
Oh, God. Look, I just want to point something out for Matt Corral. Jacob put out a tweet quite a while ago asking which player we're going to be over on, and I immediately said Matt Corral. I was on Team Matt Corral, QB1 from the jump in this year's scouting. Call me what you will. I love him, and I think part of that is because I think the new Ole Miss jerseys are so swaggy. They look so good. It's hard not everything they do is just swaggy in those uniforms, but after watching Corral, I got to say I'm concerned. And I have the same concerns with Corral that I had with Lawrence with his one read. And if it's not there, he's going to try to take off. And I don't think he is athletic enough. Look, he really started to get playing time in 2019, where he played 10 games, where he had 1,362 yards, 7.7 per attempt, under 60% completion. So not great. Only 6 touchdowns, but had 3 interceptions and rushed for 135 yards in 10 games. That's bad. 2020, the COVID season, less bad. 3,337 yards, 10.2 attempt, much better. Jumped all the way up to, we'll call it 71% completion with his career high 29 touchdowns, but 14 interceptions, but added on 506 rushing yards. And then last year in 13 games, 3,349 yards, 68% completion, 20 passing touchdowns, only 5 interceptions. Now that's big to me. And he tacked on 614 rushing yards. He has a decent enough 40, ran under a 540, went 4.8. His speed score was 56th percentile. His scouting grade, which is now up on the old player profiler, 64th percentile. Guys, we all know quarterback. I say the same thing with quarterbacks. Only one person knows how to scout him, and that's God himself, because all of the rest of us were just guessing. So when you're guessing with these quarterbacks, Matt Corral, in my opinion, he's not a first-round graded quarterback, but I think someone will reach up and grab him, even if he gets that first-round draft grade. We obviously have him at 202 in our rankings right now. Is there a chance he significantly climbs, or are you just not going to bet on what you see from his talent? I want to start with, again, Jacob looks really ready to get in there. So, Jacob.
Oh, I don't need to get in there. I'm fine. I just, I think 202 for me is a compromise position.
Okay.
I think that it's unlikely that's where he actually goes. I think if he gets round 1, because I don't know if anyone's going to get, I guess there could be trade ups, right? But there's not really many teams picking in the late half of round 1, other than the Lions at 32, that you'd think draft a quarterback. I guess the Steelers at 20, but that's a little bit more mid to me. So I think if he goes mid round 1, he's going higher than the early second round, almost certainly. And I think if he falls to round 2 or round 3, then he's probably not going, this early in the draft. So I think it's a bit of a compromise position. I am a little torn with Matt Corral. I struggle to value him. He's definitely the quarterback I've watched the most. Honestly, just partially because he was playing on a team that was enjoyable to watch. I didn't want to watch Liberty games or North Carolina games. So I just happened to watch a lot of Ole Miss. I'm not a quarterback scout whatsoever. But I do have some things with Corral. He profiles well numerically, especially his last 2 years. I mean, really only him and Howell are the guys that actually have plus efficiency passing seasons on their record prior to their final season, like Pickett had. So I like that with Corral. Here's something I really don't like with Corral. Tom touched on it, and Lucas is talking about in the chat. It is one read. Like he's 23 years old. I'm not sure he's ever read a defense. It's not really his fault. Like everything in that Kiffin system is totally pre-read because it's just RPO, 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 RPO. But I still don't know if he can do it at an NFL level. He's never played in that pro style scheme.
I think one of our guests that we had on in that unbelievable stretch said that he ran I think it was like a 60% RPO rate. At Ole Miss. Like that's really terrifying.
High. And here's where it gets more terrifying if you want to be more terrified. So his adjusted yards per attempt on 3rd and long, so 3rd and 7 or more, when you can't feasibly run an RPO, was 3.1. Just for
that's
for
not
comparison.
Great.
Howell and Pickett and Willis were up over 9 in those same situations. Ritter was at 3.9 in the same situation. Howell's was higher, but Howell also just like took 1 million sacks on 3rd and long. So kind of a similar, it's like a cross off. So basically my issue with Corral is we haven't seen him had to read a defense. And then like the closest we can get to isolating his play outside of the RPOs, he was really not good. And we saw him towards the end of the year, games against Auburn, games against Alabama, playing against better defenses that were able to stop the running game, that were able to take Ole Miss out of their system where they're just going blitzkrieg down the field, super fast RPOs. Like he just couldn't create on his own. And he wasn't getting through reads. He was forcing balls. He was scrambling. He was throwing at guys' feet. So I just don't know that I see like an NFL ready player with Corral. I do think he has the tools, but it's just hard for me when he's already 23. He's not like, he's athletic, but he's not like a Malik Willis level athlete. And then I'm like, man, like now I got to teach a guy how to read a defense. It's just hard.
Yeah, no, I agree with pretty much everything that's said. I don't pretend to know how to scout quarterbacks. I don't pretend that in the slightest. One thing I've harped on a lot the last couple of weeks, and I've harped on since I got into fantasy, is I always like to hear, when it comes to quarterbacks, what NFL scouts, what NFL coaches, what I always hear out of like these big events like the Combine, Pro Day, whatever. And I want to give a shout out to a very good article that came out. I believe it was yesterday, but it may have come out in the last couple days. Bruce Feldman does a mock draft every year, and he does it based on what he's hearing about players, how like teams in the league are talking about how high these players deserve to go. And like there were a couple surprises this year. One of the biggest surprises was Devin Lloyd jumped into the top 5, which I thought was really interesting. One of the biggest takeaways I took away from that whole article was what they talked about Matt Corral, which when the Combine hit, we didn't hear a whole lot about Corral. We heard a lot about Ritter. He's a natural born leader. He looks like this pro ready quarterback, yada, 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 whatever. Matt Corral, one of the most damning things I've ever heard in a single sports article was, I don't think, and I'm paraphrasing this, y'all can go look at this article to get the exact quote, but something, I don't think he's ready to lead men with families. I've never heard something.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That is,
this is some bizarre.
So that's this quick tangent. That was the second meanest thing in that article. The first meanest thing was one coach said that George Karlaftis looked like a bitch on tape, like flat out.
God.
So I really like this article.
Get that guy on. I would love to hear
some. Can we address this sort of elephant in the room with Corral though? Like, because that's so he's been pretty honest about his battles with substance abuse. He's talked about that like he was a guy who was expelled from his high school, ironically for fighting Wayne Gretzky's kid and knocking him out. Which is pretty crazy.
I didn't know it was Wayne Gretzky's kid. I knew he got expelled. That makes sense.
Yeah. So like he's had some, and he's talked about some of his demons, some of his anger and stuff that he's worked through. Like personally, like I like that. Like I don't like that he went through struggles. Obviously, I prefer that everybody just had like a lovely, perfect life. But like how I think like a rookie coming in, like I kind of like the idea of someone who's been through adversity. Obviously, you got to talk to the kid, see where he's at now, see where his perspective is. I've never talked to him. I have no idea where he's at in his journey. But it certainly, like, for some people out there in the world, maybe they look at a story like that. They're like, keep him away from the good Christian home. I don't know.
Yeah.
One of the things with that is what worries me with a player like Corral and someone who has gone through ups and downs beyond belief myself is you need a support system when you're that person. And now you're walking into probably one of the harshest environments, one of the harshest jobs with the harshest critics, and you need a support system. My biggest concern is Carolina goes, we love Matt Corral and what he can do for us, and his support system is Sam Darnold and Matt Rule, and then they fire Rule, and now he has a new coach, and he gets a new offensive coordinator the next year, and I think he's sunk. I think that is, for any rookie quarterback coming in, important, but for a player like that, been through all of that, I think it's a little bit more important, in my opinion, and I'm very concerned that whatever teams drafts Corral does not have the stability, unless if he goes to Pittsburgh, I think he's going to flourish when it comes to that kind of environment because Tomlin is an OG when it comes to leading. So I think that's great. I just want to point out one thing that also concerns me about Corral. What?
Okay. I want to come back to my point when we get a chance.
Sorry.
Was that kind of got derailed by...
Oh, no. Okay. What was your point?
No, I was just going to say, like, a lot of teams, what you hear coming out about these players is a lot of just what coaches think about them. And regardless of what was just said, which I agree wholeheartedly, it's a great thing that he's candid about that stuff. I think that's really important. A lot of teams in the NFL don't view him as a leader, which always worries me in terms of his draft. So looking at it purely from that standpoint, that always worries me when it comes to like QBs coming into the NFL.
Yeah. 100%.
Right.
I just want to point, it's all good. I just want to point out that his season, when you look at it, was not like, if you look at his 2020 season to his 2021, the development wasn't there for me. If you look at his game against Louisville, it was a good game, right? 381 yards, 1 touchdown. Then he goes and plays Austin Peay, who doesn't even have, I can't even click on their school. Doesn't let me. Obviously, 5 touchdowns, 281 yards. Good for you, buddy. And then Tulane. He had 7 touchdowns in this game, 4 on the ground, 3 in the air. Love to see that.
Tulane was good last year.
But it's still Tulane. And then against Bama, he got
killed. His stats look better than he
rushed.
Played.
Yeah,
that game was ugly.
Arkansas, Tennessee, he was awful.
No, dude, look at the Tennessee game was. I'm a Tennessee fan, so I watched every snap of that game. He had to play without his 3 starting receivers in that game and without 2 O-linemen. And they were like, Matt, you have no one on your team. Look at his rushing totals, dude. 30 for 195.
Yeah, I was gonna touch on
that was the wildest performance.
So
that's when I fell in love with him as like a person, because he was just like, oh, I have no teammates today, and like Lane Kiffin is getting shit thrown at him from, and Matt Corral was like, I will run 30 times, and he limped back onto the field, 4 first downs. It was baller.
No, I agree with that, but you like Texas A&M, Vanderbilt. This schedule is not like fear-inducing.
Yeah.
For a quarterback, and I don't think he really took advantage of it. So that's kind of the last thing I want to say with Corral. I obviously think their jerseys are swaggy. I think he's swaggy, but I think that I'm now comfortable saying that I don't really want to have him in the top 12 of my rookie drafts. I just think I'm there.
I got one final point, then I'll move on from Corral. Whether you look at him as will be a legitimate NFL player or not, I think there is something that should be noted. It's of the top 5 quarterbacks in this draft, he had far and away the worst supporting cast at wide receiver.
Fair.
Like by a margin, I think.
Okay.
Like
that's
his wide
fair.
Was bad this year.
An elite college
Dontario
quarterback. I just think that elite college quarterback should do something to like really elevate those guys, and he didn't. And in that, he really didn't elevate himself above some of these guys, and that's concerning.
Drummond, really good call. Like, he's a million years old, so he's not a guy we talk about in the NFL. I think he's 20. Dontario Drummond, I think, was a pretty legitimate college wide receiver. He had Elijah Moore in his junior year, which was a year as a passer. And obviously that's a big win. But yeah, I mean, we'll talk about these other quarterbacks, like, for sure. Like, Ritter has a guy going day 2 in this draft. Kenny Pickett has, probably a first rounder in next year's draft.
We'll get into that. I think Ritter goes day 1.
Oh no, I meant his receiver, like Alec.
Yeah, Alec.
I meant he has Alec day 2 this draft. Yeah, like in terms of his weapons. No, Ritter could go day 1, but we'll talk about him soon.
Look, we're gonna come back with our 13th player and try to get through that one a little quicker so we can hit our time today. So sit tight. Here is another clip from one of our previous shows. Hopefully this one works as well.
I think David Bell deserves to move into that upper echelon, or like that second tier of wide receivers. Like when we start looking at Pickens, when we start looking at some of the other guys in this class who aren't in that, like, guaranteed, we know they're going first round guys. I think Bell should be there. His production is insane at Purdue. I mean, he outproduced Rondale Moore in terms of, like, his years there. Mm. He has the frame of a player who actually works in that, like, in the NFL sense. Like, everything breaks well for David Bell. The only thing I did wrong was overcorrect on his 40 time. And I am using this as a teachable moment before I go back and say, currently right now, if I was drafting, I think I would take David Bell over, let me do the math real quick, 3 of the wide receivers that we are yet to talk about.
Okay.
Easy.
Man, that was such a fun show last week. Look, number 13, Skye Moore. Billy's putting his hands up.
Too low.
Too
disrespectful.
I think I had him higher. Billy, what's up? Why are you pointing at yourself?
Oh, no, I was saying lead off with me on this one because I just want to hand it to Jakob.
Fair. That's totally fair.
You go first.
Skye Moore is a player that I think for the majority, most of us really like. I think that he is quite possibly my favorite prospect this year.
Ooh, yeah, Tom, you had him at 9. You were the high. So you had him all the way up at 9.
He is my
Tom
favorite.
Lee, who was the true enemy of progress.
Oh yeah, well he can,
Tom Lee had him down at 17.
He killed our McVibe too, so it's not surprising. But 5'10", 195, 21 years old, will be 22 when the season kicks off. But 4.41 speed at the dash, that's great. Agility score was very woeful, not great. His burst score 50th percentile, speed score 67th percentile. Straight line speed though, pretty good. Production, well, he's got that too. In 2019, at 19 years old, when he first got onto the field for Western Michigan, he had 51 receptions for 802 yards and 3 touchdowns. I'd say pretty fucking good. 2020, in that odd season, in 5 games, 25 receptions for 388 yards. That's 15.5 yards per. Pretty good, and had three touchdowns. 21 years old in 12 games, 94 receptions on 135 targets, 1,283 yards, a 36.68 target share, and double-digit touchdowns with 10.
And you're missing the most important.
Unbelievable.
He's fantasy clutch. He scored 4 touchdowns in the college fantasy finals.
Well, that's super important to NFL scouts as well, and mostly our hearts. I know too low. I tried to boost him up there. I just want to say, just because his name is Moore, it's not why I love him, but if like the way he plays does remind me of one
Rondale Moore.
DJ more than Rondale, but he does remind me like size, everything with
Lance Moore.
Just not. Oh my God! Please no.
Reminds him of the second best Moore in the league.
Never, ever reference him to that man again. I actually want to like him. Billy, you wanted to start us off here on Skye.
Yeah, Jacob's going to have a lot more takes on this guy, and I'm going to agree with a good amount of them. So I'm going to let him relay what the bulk of what I'm going to say. I'm just going to talk because I feel like I need to talk on everyone. Skye Moore is a good prospect, decent size speed. He is the archetype of where I think the NFL is going. If there's one guy that's going to get drafted in the back of the first round that I think has a legitimate chance of being like the next wide receiver in the league, I think might be Skye Moore. I mean, the only reason he was this low for me was, just Western Michigan. And even like Western Michigan produces a decent amount of good players too. So that probably just shouldn't be an argument, and it probably shouldn't be an argument regardless, but besides the point. There's a lot of good things going for Skye Moore. He's still young. He had a great he produced so much of the offense for Western Michigan this year. I think he's just a man amongst boys for where he's playing right now. Northern Illinois is who even knows? But besides that, I'm just going to turn this over to Jacob. Tom, you don't have to bounce it back to me. We could just move on to my guy after this one. So go ahead.
Sure.
Yeah, I'll be much shorter for other wide receiver, even though he's much taller. I'll talk about Skye. Billy hit on the biggest question that people have whenever they ask me about Skye Moore, which is like, what do we do with all this production of Western Michigan? And I think that's a very logical question to ask, because intuitively you look at his chart and you go, oh my gosh, like if we just look at the yards per team pass attempt chart that keeps flashing, like he has the best one in the entire class. Like it's not even close. But that's like in a total vacuum, right? That chart does not know that he played at Western Michigan. And so you go, what the hell are we supposed to do with this? And you look at, the early round picks from these smaller schools over the last while, and certainly some good ones within there, but overall they've been pretty disappointing. Here's every player drafted round 1, 2, or 3, and Moore looks like a lock to be drafted in one of those 3 rounds, probably round 2, in the last 9 years. Corey Davis, Devante Adams, Cortland Sutton, Dwayne Eskridge, Traquan Smith, Deontay Johnson, Aaron Dodson, T.Y. Hilton, Taywan Taylor, Zay Jones, Carlos Henderson, Rashad Perryman, Kenny Galladay, and Anthony Miller. And you can hear all sorts of names in there.
Carlos Henderson.
Yeah, 3 to the day.
No, I know. I was doing Go ahead. Fuck it.
Anyway, then if you produce it further, now what do we know about wide receivers, right? We talked about with Dodson, like the late declare. I don't like the late declare. It's not because they harm me personally, but because their hit rate is usually a little bit worse. And most of these, like almost all of these group of 5 wide receivers are late declares. And it makes sense because it's really hard to get on the NFL's radar as a junior from some rando school that nobody ever watches or cares about. And so the only ones of this entire standard early were Deontay Johnson, Cortland Sutton, Rashad Perryman, Skye Moore, Devante Adams. And both Perryman and Sutton were actually 4-year early declares. So they had a redshirt season. The only 2 3-year players who were early declares were, of course, Skye Moore and Devante Adams, which means that it's a 1-for-1 perfect comp. Skye Moore is obviously going to be exactly Devante Adams. 100%. There's no doubt about it. So obviously I'm joking about that, but like it's those 2 and Deontay Johnson that are the only 2 that were 3 or 4-year player 2, but an early declare. Anyway, so point is, what does all this mean? Is he actually Devante Adams? No, I mean, the sample size is ludicrously low. But I guess what I would say is declare status and a lot of these late production senior declare players who have not been good is kind of a confounding variable in the idea that group of 5 wide receivers are bad bets, because the vast majority of these group of 5 players who bust look like players who bust that come from Power 5. they don't produce until late, and then they declare late, and then they get drafted too early because they're being drafted off of 23-year-old, 22-year-old stats against 19-year-olds. And it's even a little bit more sketchy in a group of 5 because they're usually playing against 19-year-olds who also will never play in the NFL anytime soon. And so you look at the guys in this class, like we're not going to be talking about any more G5 players, but the guys in this class from the group of 5, here's the chart. It's Moore, Shakir, Dobbs, Calvin Austin, Tolbert, Pierce, and then one. Yes, but it's kind of the same idea. Like most of these guys, like Pierce, he just didn't produce at all. But Calvin Austin, Romeo Dobbs, Jalen Tolbert, like these look like typical group of 5 players who get drafted too early and bust. The guys who don't produce until later and then produce a lot and then get drafted early and don't usually do it in the NFL. Watson kind of looks the same. And then Shakir, he's interesting. Like he looks more like that kind of tweener tier. Guys like Gallup, Sutton, Hilton, guys Corey Davis that are 4-year players that have been consistently productive. Not elite, but Skye Moore is just a rare breed. And so to me, based on all this, I just think it's so rare and so difficult that a group of 5 wide receiver ever actually is an early declare that's drafted early with this kind of production, that's such an outlier in and of itself that I just don't care about his group of 5 status. I think he's a really good prospect. He's my number 5 wide receiver in the class. I've actually moved him up further after doing this deep dive into a group of 5 wide receivers. And I think I would take him as early at this point as potentially the 108 in super flex drafts.
Yeah, man, I love him that much too. And I was trying to get him there. He's a player that if you play him in the slot, you're getting an outstanding weapon. He can catch it away from his body, which is a big deal for me. Over the shoulder, in traffic. Like I understand the competition, like you were hitting on, is not what we want to see for an elite player, but he does everything well. He can play in the screen game. He can block in the screen game. I just think that you put him in the slot in the NFL and he's going to be an absolute problem. And slot receivers are becoming more and more fantasy viable as the league changes. 3 wide receiver sets. He's a banger at that spot. So I love him. I like him. I tried to get him up higher on the old ADP.
Blame Tom Lee. If Tom Lee's watching, again, you are the enemy here. Everybody else ranked him.
Who did he rank high?
A bunch of quarterbacks, a bunch of quarterbacks.
All the running backs. That's what he did.
Robust. Okay, he's it's time to robust. It's time to roast robust Tom over here. Here's some guys that he ranked above Skye Moore.
Whoa! Saquon, take it easy.
What?
Were you about to list off like the guys we haven't talked about yet?
Well, no, I was going to make fun of him for the shitty players you ranked above Skye Moore, not the good ones.
Okay. Well,
he's out here.
It's Tom Lee's ranking, not consensus.
Yeah.
Come on, Billy.
All right. Fine.
We've got all the quarterbacks. We've got Jaggy Zamir White. Yeah, we got all these buns.
I thought I was gonna be the highest person on Zamir White. Having him up there is
we're gonna get Tom Lee on now the week before the draft to defend his drafts here. This is unreal. All right, guys. So this player,
Tom Lee, by the way, Matt Corral got on the show because of Tom Lee. Tom Lee had Matt Corral at number 3 overall.
Yeah, that was a.
Yeah,
we're gonna see though. Maybe he'll go high. Maybe.
Look, the next player popping up here on your screen right away is a player that caused a little bit of a tussle in the Full Tilt Dynasty podcast Slack channel because our own Lucas, or the cute Hertz, apparently absolutely detests George Pickens every
look, he's talking in the chat right now.
Every bit of his being.
George Pickens stuffed Lucas in a locker.
Yeah, I don't know what he did to you, but dude, he's not a bad player, and
highly questionable for a UT fan to be shitting on a Georgia player. Like, you just know there's bias here.
Oh, there's 100% bias here. Let's get into George Pickens, the Georgia product, who does have injury concern, which we will talk about. 6'3", 195. That's pretty good. Ran a 4.47 on bad equipment, but he played in only 4 games last year for 100. He had 5 receptions, 107 yards, no touchdowns. In 2020, he had in 8 games, 36 receptions for 513 yards. That's not bad. With an 18% target share, that's bad. With 6 receiving touchdowns at 19, though. When he was healthy and playing for Georgia in 12 games, when he got on the field, he had 69 receptions for 727 yards. That's almost 15 per. He had a 15% target share, an 80% catch rate, and 8 friggin' touchdowns as a 19-year-old in the league. That's pretty good. His breakout, he got in there with the breakout age. And I know, Jacob, you like the little breakout age. At 18.5, 96th percentile. If this man just could have stayed healthy, we were talking, we would end up talking about a player who's likely in the top 3 wide receivers in the class. And I wouldn't even think that it was close. All the man had to do was stay healthy. He just couldn't do it. So, Billy, your strong opinion on Mr. Pickens. What do you have for everybody? Enlighten us all.
Yeah, you made all my best points for me.
Yeah, there we go.
Like, Pickens is. I was talking earlier that there was a lot of guys in this class that felt like the same guy. Pickens is not that same guy compared to a lot of these other guys in this class. He's one of the few ones that can ride the big roller coasters at the amusement park. He's one of the few that are pushing 200 pounds. He has fucking I can't think of a big bird. I ran out.
An albatross.
Albatross wingspan. The dude has monstrous arms.
Fucking
and he profile. We were in the situation to say he was the 2022 wide receiver 1 when he was 18 playing at Georgia. And then he goes out, tears his ACL. Damn.
It wasn't great. Yeah.
Damn, that hurts. But everything about Pickens was just screaming this guy was going to be the guy for this year. And it sucks. It really sucks that he tore his ACL. We can't really do anything about that. But the ACL isn't really an injury anymore. I mean, it's an injury, but
I was gonna say my knee is
there was times
you just gotta do another
yeah. There was times just a couple of years ago where dudes were tearing their ACL.
Please.
And that was just the end of their career. But that's not what modern medicine is. ACLs are healing in 6 months now. And I don't really think Lucas. I don't agree.
He isn't the same guy. He's worse. But why? He looked just fine at the combine. He looked fine. He's
everything about George Pickens. What we saw in his testing, what we saw in his play. I don't think he's really lost anything. He doesn't look like he's lost a step. When you watched him play at some of the few games he was able to play after his ACL, I mean, you want to quote low prediction or production. I think that's fine. You could say, well, he only had 1 reception or 2 receptions in these games. Lucas can get in the chat all he wants and try and defend us. But I mean, it's you can say that all you want, but if you go look at tape, he's not doesn't look like he lost that step on his route running, anything. George Pickens, I legitimately think that this is my hot take for the year. You can get ready. George Pickens, I think, is the best value in this rookie draft right now. I think there's a legitimate chance that he is one of the top 3 best fantasy producers coming out of this draft in 5 years. I think there's every chance of that. And we're drafting him. I mean, Pickens right now in our mock that we're doing is what, the 201? Is that where his consensus?
No, he's up at he's at the 112.
112. Yeah. That's fine. I think that's high compared to where the bulk people are going to be taking that. I'll admit he's probably up there because of me. I'll gladly take that. I was easily the highest on Pickens. That's fine. But I think there's every chance that he outplays that. If he's getting drafted at the 205 right now, I would take Pickens in a heartbeat. And he is one of my dream players to go to Green Bay this year, because he's one of the guys who profiles as that alpha wide receiver who can be ultra productive at the next level, especially if he gets a sexy target share from being the only target for Aaron Rodgers. I'll rest my case here. I can go on about why Pickens, I think, is undervalued.
A couple things I want to highlight here is he clearly can win down the field. You've seen the clip of the Alabama double team win downfield, and then he can also win in the end zone with a horrific quarterback. I'm just going to run it back just a quick second.
Whoa. Hang on. Lucas, I don't love MVS. He's just a statistical outlier in a lot of things.
Right here. Broke his ankles, 2 people, shit throw with his hands. Okay, I don't know.
I got it.
Lunatics.
I got it. Go.
In our chat right now, but I will
just
say,
don't talk about it. Just go.
Boyd, what up, man? Happy to have you around.
Happy to have you, Boyd.
Pickens can win downfield. He can win in traffic. He's fast enough to get away. It's just injuries for me, and his breakout age was fantastic. Everything else tested well. So Jakob, tear him down.
So I'm like kind of in the middle on. I feel like the fantasy community collectively since the end of the college football season has like really had a rising tide on Pickens, and I've kind of went from being like, oh, George Pickens seems like a fun upside bet to being like, I don't know if I'm so high on George Pickens, and I don't know that my opinion's all that changed. It just really feels like people have been pushing him up more. Here's like my question for the fantasy community. What percentage of the fantasy community do you think thinks George Pickens tore his ACL after his freshman season? Like, I think it's a high percentage because I keep seeing this narrative that he was elite as a freshman, was the wide receiver 1 in 2022, and then he tore his ACL and everything went bad. Like, no, he just played healthy and was bad in the second year. That happened. His yards per team pass attempt went down. His target share went down. He had already dropped in value. And then the hope was he would have a bounce back year in third year to solve for that. And then he would end up probably being a really, really strong prospect because he had the great freshman start. He was a great recruit, etc. Also a really young prospect. I think he's the youngest of these top wide receiver prospects. And then, of course, he has a torn ACL, so that never happens. So basically what we're left with is a really strong first year and not very strong, not terrible, but not very strong. And then just a non-existent third year, basically, that was washed out by injury. And my concern is the first year was good, but it was high variance. Like, he had an 18% target share and a low volume passing offense. And so with that, like, he was very efficient converting downfield plays, which is a good thing. It's just not that much to take to the bank. There just wasn't a lot of passing on Georgia. It was not a high volume role. It was a lot of downfield, converted them at a high rate. With that small of a sample, basically the whole theory of George Pickens being this wide receiver 1 transcendent prospect after year 1 that was robbed after that is based on a pretty sample of deep targets that he was able to convert. And his prospect would look a lot worse if, the quarterback went the other way on 3 of them. He dropped 1 or 2 of them. Defensive back broke 1 or 2 more up. He drew a different corner. They called an offside. Like, it's just a little bit sketchy to me that I think we're walking a bit of a tightrope with Pickens. I do like Pickens. I think he's interesting. I think he has a lot of upside because the same way that I just said, like, it could have looked a lot worse. It also could have looked a lot better because there's so much we don't know about Pickens. To me, he's kind of a black box prospect. I'm more sure that Skye Moore is good. I'm more sure that Olave is good. I'm probably a little bit more certain even that Dodson is good, even if I think that Pickens' ceiling is much higher. So I think when people were ranking Pickens like outside of their top 10 wide receivers, when he was still not on the football field, people didn't know if he was going to declare. I was really excited to be taking a lot of them. At this point, I'm not sure I'll be taking a lot of them outside of maybe some really strong teams where I want to shoot for the moon and have some fun with it, because I do think I totally agree with what you guys are saying about his upside. I just think that somewhat lost in this narrative about his injury is that he actually had a bad year that wasn't injury related in that second year. It was below the threshold. Yeah. He didn't earn targets at a high rate. He doesn't have a season with a 20% target share. He doesn't have a season command target volume. And concern to me. So I like Pickens. I probably won't be drafting him as highly or Tom are, which means I probably won't be drafting him that much in our leagues, but it would not surprise me if he hit. I think he's a really fun.
The thing for me when it comes to drafting him as much as we are, I am only drafting him if the draft capital hits. That's the thing. He's not a player that like.
Well, I think the draft capital's hitting. I think it's hitting. He's going early 2, late 1.
Right, but if the NFL looks at him and goes, "Nah, bro," then that's, to me, he's not one of those players that like, the NFL's wrong on this one. If they look at what happened to him and they go, this isn't it, then sure, I will happily renounce all statements I made in the positive. He's not someone I like Pickens where we have him in this consensus rank, but he's not a player I am holding on to emotionally at this spot. Like, it's not like he's going to be at this spot no matter what happens in the draft. I think it's definitely going to get to him. Anything else on Pickens before we take off here?
Nope.
All right. Well, we
round out today.
We're gonna be close here. We got one more clip. When we come back, we have the next player up on our list. This is number 11, the player that to me feels the most gross to have this high, but this is assumed draft capital, I believe, at this point, because oh my gosh, it feels a little bit gross. So here's a clip. Hopefully it plays correctly. I'm just gonna keep saying that because it's been working for us and it's been holding it together. So hopefully this plays through correctly. And when we come back, we got number 11 on deck.
To do in this entire 2020 year was figure out how fast a 40 time he could run, and then eat as much protein as possible to pack onto his 5'8" frame so that he could come in at 201 pounds. So that is the best we're going to get out of Kenny Gainwell. He played at, I believe, 190 pounds in college, 201.
Absolutely insane when you go back and look at how the show looked and functioned back then to now. I every time I go back and look at it now, and Lucas is out there clipping our last year's draft show for us because it is 4 hours. So shout out to him for being able to do that for us to get you some of these. But just again, can't say enough about where we've come. All right, baby hands himself. Look at his hands around that football. Right, there's not good surface coverage. Yeah, 100%.
Wait, are we doing Pickett's the one on the show?
Yes.
Oh wait, we ranked Desmond Ritter. Is that consensus?
Yes.
That was me.
That was me. I knew this was the case, but I guess I forgot.
Yeah, Ritter.
Talking about Ritter.
Ritter to me boosted himself after his 40 time. That's all I needed. But
we'll talk about it next week.
The coverage of the football by the hands is not outstanding. It might hold him back, but it does look like he is going to get the draft capital. So let's get into a little bit with Kenny Pickett here, okay? So Kenny Pickett, the man himself. Give me 1 second. I'm gonna find it. I had it pulled up here. Here we go. The man is old. Will be 24, well into his age 24 season as a rookie. Alarming. Last year, blow up year, 4,319 yards, 42 passing touchdowns, with 7 interceptions, completed 67% of his throws. Before that, his best season was in 2019, where he had 3,098 yards with 13 touchdowns and 9 interceptions. 2020, in the COVID year, in 9 games, 2,408 yards, 13 touchdowns and 9 picks. The man never had more than 13 touchdowns in his 27 years of college football, up until last year, where he threw 42. This is alarming. This is the Joe Burrow college football breakout season, while also looking unspectacular when you look at it in that lens. You see the throw on the video right there. There are some horrific interceptions thrown. There's another one. Thank you. It's just he makes piss poor decisions on a regular basis, and I don't know if he just I don't know what it is about him. I don't know why. I see nothing about Pickett that excites me as a football fan to watch him, to think that he can step on the field and do really well. The man wears 2 gloves at times. We've seen another quarterback, Teddy 2 gloves, play in the NFL. It hasn't worked out for him because he's awful. I don't know. There's nothing to Pickett for me. I don't know why he's this high on our list, honestly, outside of, I don't know, him possibly
Draft
going
capital.
in the top 10. Yeah, it's exactly what it is. But even with his draft capital, I don't think I want to be anywhere near him. What say you guys?
Jacob, I'll let you go on this one.
Sure. I mean, I don't disagree that much with Tom. They have ended up, I don't know if I'm the highest on Pickett. I think I'm close to it, if not, which is like gross because I don't think in terms of my quarterback ranking, Pickett is my QB6 in this class. Like I really just like his profile. A lot of questionable profiles. We talked about Howell, his propensity. We talked about Corral, my issues with his defense. We talked about we're going to talk about issues with the other quarterbacks too. Carson Strong, of course, who is a piece of siege weaponry from the medieval era, didn't make our list.
With a cannon.
Yes. Am I still cutting out? I'm getting stuff in the private chat.
No, you're much better now. Just
Yeah,
every
you're
point
right.
Okay. Things are good now. Things are good now. Okay. Well, that's fine because all of the stuff I was talking about was my real life quarterback rankings, and I'm glad that cut out because I don't think that they matter that much. Because I think that like history has shown that we just suck at evaluating quarterbacks, like majorly suck. It was just last year. It was supposed to be a generational quarterback class, obviously, but pretty much outside of Mac Jones, who was most people's QB5, the quarterbacks either played like. The year before, Justin going like significantly later than Burrow and Tua. Burrow looks phenomenal as well, but Herbert looked in that class. Clearly a cut above Tua. The 2018 quarterback class, right? I mean, Josh Allen was seen as like a laughably bad pick. And obviously he's actually the Dynasty 101 overall. Should we expect events individually to happen? No, I definitely don't think so. I think that the prospect narrative is tires. But the point is, back is just a high variance position. The NFL doesn't get it right particularly often among players. It doesn't seem like film get particularly often. Analytics get it right particularly often. But the one thing we do know is that quarterbacks, if they hit, extremely valuable in Superflex. And we know the quarterbacks who get drafted early are usually a pretty 3+ years, over 75% of them do. And so I don't love Kenny Pickett. The reason I dislike him, he profiles like a bust in a very traditional way. Like we often see this profile of quarterback get drafted early. It's like the pro quarterback, the tools, experience, but he didn't ever have efficiency until his last year when he was old against weaker competition. Like I just don't like this style of quarterback. But again, like stranger things have happened. If he gets drafted early, that has value in a super flex league, even if he's not that great because he'll be starting for years. And we could be super, super wrong. So I wouldn't be letting Pickett fall all the way to the 111 in my rookie drafts, assuming he's drafted in the top half of the first round. I'll hold my nose and probably take him in like the 1-8, 1-9 range. That's unfortunately what he deserves.
Yeah. I think if you're watching the episode on YouTube or Twitter, I highly suggest doing so. For these episodes, Kenny Pickett throws some of the most egregious interceptions and misthrows that I've seen in this class. They are laughably bad and into the belly of the defenders more times than they should be. But as you would have just seen, he can escape. I know I made fun of him in the Slack channel last night, putting his escapability at a -4. I don't think he has NFL escapability, but in college, he kind of did it well enough.
Would you say that he's sneaky athletic?
I wouldn't even call him that. I don't think he even meets that standard. Billy, do you have strong Kenny Pickett opinions?
Yeah, I legitimately thought I was going to be the highest on Pickett. I was surprised it was going to be Jakob, or I was surprised it was Jakob and Lucas, specifically Jakob, but I understand what he just said pretty well. The hand argument is dumb. I'll move on.
It matters because he has so many fumbles.
No, I really don't think it matters.
Even Dante Culpepper had bigger hands than him, and Culpepper was the fumble god at quarterback.
I really don't think it matters. Like the reason we don't hear about 8.5-inch hands in the NFL is players with them usually aren't good enough to get this far. Kenny Pickett is obviously good enough.
I wonder if that argument could work for a 5'8" wide receiver.
Or a 5'5" wide receiver.
Anyway, all that besides the point. I think Kenny Pickett is just fine. I legitimately, I think if he goes to a team with a semi-decent wide receiving core, I see no reason he isn't producing like regular numbers throughout the bulk of his career. Like I see no huge like issue comparing Kenny Pickett to a bunch of like the high-end QB2s in the league. Like if Kenny Pickett went out and had a career like Ryan Tannehill, or I don't think anyone would really be surprised. Like I really don't think he's that far off. He has shown you can see it a lot on his film, not here because Tom intentionally pulled out the worst video
Look at that.
of Kenny Pickett he could. Anyway,
Tom picked the one really cool throw. He did get the one, but Tom didn't even include the fake slide, and I think that's sacrilegious.
Yeah, it's absolutely ridiculous to not include the fake slide, but that's besides the point. Like Kenny Pickett has shown a lot of tendencies to be able to sense pressure. You can see it a lot in his tape. You can see it a lot. Yeah, Tom, you picked the clip. You know it's coming. It's not interesting.
It is.
If I brought out an entire list of 30 clips, Patrick Mahomes missing throws, I can't immediately go, yeah, this dude fucking sucks.
I can't wait for this moment to be on the episode next week, on the last week on
God.
That's
besides the point. Kenny Pickett legitimately has some of the capabilities of testing as a good quarterback in the league. And a lot of league sources expect him. There's rumors of him being the likely pick at 6 to the Panthers, which would be fucking hilarious every single Sunday, listening to Tom bitch and moan about Kenny Pickett missing DJ Moore. That'd be the funniest thing I've ever heard about in my life.
Needs another shitbag quarterback to miss him.
Anyway, but like the NFL very clearly evaluates Kenny Pickett as a good quarterback and as a professional, like strong-armed quarterback. I think there's a legitimately good chance. If there was a way to bet Kenny Pickett top QB on the top 2 QB on the board, I'd bet that 100%. Because I don't think there's any way teams are taking Ritter, Corral, or Howell above him. Like I just don't see that happen.
He might be the first quarterback off the board.
I think that's extremely likely. Like I think it's 100% a legitimate possibility.
Carolina at 6 does feel right, which will
it makes so much sense.
Oh my God!
And teams value
such a shitty spot for a quarterback to go though.
Teams value players that can go in and just fit this mold that's hard to like fuck up. Like Kenny Pickett, whatever you want to say, he's not this like niche player like Lamar Jackson. He's not this like crazy statue like Carson Strong. He is just a player who can fit a lot of potential molds. And I think that's where a lot of the value comes from him. I think he's one of the safer QB prospects in this class because I don't think you're really losing a lot by putting Kenny Pickett in at quarterback. I don't think I don't think Kenny Pickett's winning you a Super Bowl, but I think teams are going to value that. And because they're going to value that, I think it's likely he's starting more games than any other quarterback in this draft class next year and has that kind of setup that if he does hit at the NFL level, which I think there's a legitimate chance he does, he's got 20-year career ahead of him. Like,
he'll be like 45.
Point.
I agree.
Oh, boo-hoo. He's 20. He's 24.
I do agree with your last point, and then I'm going to twist your other with like you're saying that that to play the most of any rookie quarterback. I totally agree with that. Like, I think the appeal to Pickett is that he's the closest thing there is to a plug and play guy. Although I actually think Ritter could be that guy, but we'll talk about that next week.
I agree wholeheartedly.
And then, I do think Carolina makes sense. If he's drafted by the Panthers, I think he's their week 1 starter or very close to it. Maybe week 3. Yeah, that's an interesting question, Cute Herd. My answer would be Pickett.
Oh, mine's Wilson.
It's kind of like, this is like the Dollar Tree version of my argument for Malik Willis over Lawrence and Fields, which we'll talk about in 2 weeks. But my argument for that is just as good a prospect as, of course. But he has 1 year extra value insulation, and I prefer the uncertainty of a bad quarterback prospect because we aren't good at evaluating quarterback prospects versus a quarterback who I just watched be bad. And that's unfortunately what Lawrence and Fields did. And I think with Zach Wilson and Pickett, I kind of have to apply the same principle, which is that I think that Wilson is a better prospect than Pickett. Just watched Wilson suck. And I'd rather kind of take the unknown, I think, with Pickett attitude about that. I think where I disagree with Billy, and I was going to bring up Zach Wilson to this, might be considered safe in NFL standards, is not that safe because Pickett is of the top 5 that we talk, who does not run at a high mobile. Like he's athletic enough, but he's not going to be a rushing threat. And that means that if he's bad at football, he's going to score 0 fantasy points that are useful to you. Like, he actually has to be quite good to score fantasy points. Otherwise, he gets into the Zach Wilson zone where he's just not like a startable player. And that's the one thing that scares me a little bit. Whereas I think the other guys, Corral, Howell, Ritter, Willis, even if they're really bad at football, which is possible, I think as long as they're starting, they will score fantasy points for you. And Pickett, I think, is the only one that actually has to hit at a real football level to be fantasy useful.
Yeah, I just want to make a point to Billy's point where you said that you don't see a reason why he can't be successful at the next.
Oh God, here
level.
comes Tom with the clip again.
No, I just want to point out that there are 4 years worth of reasons why that he can't be good at that next level. I just want to reiterate that prior to last season, his career high college completion percentage was 61.6. And again, previous career high in touchdown passes is 13 to 9 interceptions. That is alarm bells ringing at maximum volume at all times during the day. And he's not Joe Burrow.
There's what happened? Like legitimately, something happened.
Well, Jordan Addison is part of it.
And
I think it's a few things.
And he's like he got 5 years older than some of his competition.
No, but I think it's a few things. I think that he got better.
Oh,
right. Like he got better, which makes sense. I mean, he should get better. It was like his 5th year as a. I think it was his 4th year as a. He got better.
Yeah.
Good for him. He got better at a rate that most quarterbacks don't. Again, good for him. Like, that's awesome. He's going to get himself a lot of money by being drafted in the 1st round. But like, we've seen this before. It's not quite as much of like a glaring red flag to me at wide receiver, just because quarterback's more. But we have seen this story before. Guys who don't play or don't play well until later, and then they come a good season. And I think, part of it, I think Addison dragged him a little bit. We'll talk about him in probably one of our last 2 shows, the 2023 draft class. Phenomenal wide receiver prospect out of Pittsburgh, won the bullet in the cough. Addison, I think that Pickett just also played much better. And he got better at a really impressive rate. But I do think it's a major red flag that he wasn't good until his last year. He's competing against guys in his class that are younger than him. Might have progressed even a longer rate if they had the opportunity that Pickett had to continue in college draft. So, it matters to me. And the other thing, too, is people have made the Burrow comp. I mean, he was really good this year. He was not Joe Burrow good this year.
No.
Like, his stats this year do not compare with the tier of a Joe Burrow or a Mac Jones. I understand he didn't have the surrounding cast of those guys. He is elite prospect at wide receiver. He doesn't have multiple. He doesn't have an O-line full of 1st rounders. But he didn't get to the level of performance in this year where I'm like, throw out what happened before. he got to the level this year where it's like, okay, I'm willing to listen.
If you look at some of his games this year, right? He had 6 touchdowns against Western Michigan. Pretty good. Then 5 touchdowns against New Hampshire.
Skye Moore.
I cannot click on New Hampshire's college when I'm looking this up. Georgia Tech.
Because PFR doesn't scout non-Power 5.
Well, shocker. Georgia Tech, 389 yards, 4 touchdowns. And then really that's it for, I guess, against Duke. And
500
Miami.
yards against Miami.
Florida. Like,
not Miami, Ohio. What the fuck do you mean, Florida?
No,
that's where the good school is.
I make fun of but it wasn't. He had 509 yards, but it doesn't mean he had a good game.
I love that Tom would have been like, look, if he was good against Miami, he won, but he was only good against the U. So fuck that guy.
That's the joke, guys. But sure, 55 attempts, right? 39 completions, 519 yards, 8 a ton of sacks in that game, and had two picks on 3 touchdowns. So it just, did he really have a good game? And I don't know. He put up a lot of yards, so good for him, I guess. Dwayne Haskins put up a ton of yards. He got benched
next week with Tom. Why Norm Van Brocklin was actually not very good when he threw for 554 yards in a National Football League game.
100%. And then what is the other one? Virginia, right? Okay. 4 touchdown passes.
You
2
skipped
picks.
over North Carolina.
Yeah, again,
with the North Carolina game, because that game is where the small hands narrative I think really began, because he was lighting them up for the whole first half, and then it started to rain, and then he started to play bad, and that's when the small hands thing started becoming a thing.
58% completion in that game, minus 11 yards. The next game, minus 14 yards. Like, it just, I don't see it. I don't see it in his week to week. It's not impressive enough for me to like be blown out of my chair at his progression. It's kind of progression that I expect out of a guy that's gotten to start at college football for 4 years. I expect that.
Y'all realize, like, the top 3 quarterbacks we have ranked don't play Alabama every year.
Like, yeah, and I don't like any of them
here. I'm ambivalent. I'm on. If anything, I'm closer to your side. We had Pickett ranked at the same spot.
I agree. I'm more saying, like, going down the list of their game log and be like, well, he sure sucked against Miami, Ohio. That doesn't work. Because all of them.
I'm just pointing out
first of all,
reasons.
It's unfortunate that we're not talking about Talia Tagovailoa on this podcast.
Like,
oh yeah. Oh, Talia.
I just wanted to mention that in his most impressive season, when you run down the games that he played, didn't blow me away unless they were absolute fucking dog water. And that's alarming to me.
All right. You're much higher on Ritter than I am. No, you're not higher than Ritter than I am. You're much higher on Ritter than Pickett, right?
Yes.
Well,
especially
Ritter
now over there.
Only had 170 yards against Navy.
100% he did.
140 in Central Florida.
Is he 29? Is he Brandon Whedon? Did he have that time to develop?
You guys, this is the like lowest form of analysis for just like reading game logs. We are currently reading game logs.
But this isn't like the point of that though, Jacob, was that when Billy says there's no reason why, there's lots of reasons why.
Yes, that's gaslighting.
And it's just on surface value.
Billy took a pail of gas and then he lit it. Like that's
it just look. If you want to talk Ritter, we can, but it's because I look at Ritter and I go, sure, he's super athletic and he's not 30 years old.
What I like about Ritter more than anybody else in this class is that he's like is the football IQ. Like he calls his own protections. Like you talk about Corral and it's like Corral didn't even decide which side of the field to throw on. Ritter goes to the line. He's calling shifts. Like I love like I think that is kind of the thing that that's next week.
Guys, I love you. We're an hour 40. We're talking about him
next week on the Full Tilt Dynasty podcast. How Desmond Ritter calls his own protections.
27-year pro in college, and he can't call his own protections in Kenny Pickett. So that's just what it is. But look, that's what we're going to call the show. Billy and I will probably continue this argument.
I'm going to bed. I don't know what you're talking about.
All right. He's folding. That's fine.
We're going to watch Kenny throwing in the rain against North Carolina.
Oh, yeah. I can't wait. I can't wait to do the clips for next week, too. By the way, if any of you guys want to spin your narratives and do the clips, feel fucking free. Otherwise, you're gonna deal with the ones that
I can't wait till next week when we get clips of Ritter and it's just like only his good plays.
It'll be only the best ones.
For 25-yard gains, I'm just throwing darts.
We're gonna go back and do Sam Howell with like Sam Howell just 90-yard dot.
Yeah, I get the last word every time.
Yeah, he controls when the show ends.
Yeah, 100%. I could just cut it right now. That's the best part.
It's called fascism, Lucas.
It's not good. Don't love it.
It's called being the only one that has
countries. Sometimes they tell us Kenny Pickett's Brandon Whedon and act like we can't say anything to disagree.
Look, I mean, they're both going to be first round picks. And they're both going to be 45 coming out of college. But yeah, it's fantastic. I love it. I love this show. It's so much fun, even if it is the lowest form of analysis. Jacob, guys. What do you have going on right now? Billy, you're still doing your mocks?
Nothing. Fucking nothing. I got nothing going on. I'm waiting to the draft show. No. I got fuck all going on. I have an underdog draft that I forgot I was in. Jacob, what do you got going on?
Oh my god. At least
I'm dead.
Or part 2 of my thinking series on fascism. No, I wrote it about ranges of outcomes, how they're distributed, how they're created, ranges of outcomes that we see in real life that apply to fantasy, and young players can get changed their value too much in the market factors. So check that out. It is pinned at the top of my Twitter. I'll be working on the rookie guide myself and former and future Full Tilt Dynasty guest Drew Ozenchuk are collaborating on our bulletproof rookie guide. That'll come out. I think we'll have one like a little bit short of the draft, and then we'll have the official one after the draft. So super excited to do that in my free time, and otherwise just finishing up my law school clinic term. Pumped up for the NFL draft.
I cannot wait to read the draft profile you guys come up with, baby hands Pickett. I look forward to sending Billy off the rails as many times as I can when discussing him. And I swear to God, if he gets drafted to Carolina, I'm going to yeet myself out of existence and straight into the sun because I don't think I can mentally handle having to root for him. And as for me, I have an article on why Amari Cooper is the fantasy football middle child that you need to be avoiding and treating like a middle child. You can go and get that on goingfor2.com. I also have 3 reasons why Trey Lance will break out in 2022, even with Garoppolo in the building. Good night, Lucas. You enjoy yourself, man. And other than that, we're just continuing to move on with the Full Tilt Dynasty podcast. As I said, new show will be debuting in a couple of weeks, a Full Tilt Devy podcast, myself and Andy Starr. That's can't wait for that. We're just moving along here. Can't wait till next week so I can send Billy off the rails one more time. We're going to try to keep that show under an hour and 45. But until then, always remember the same things. Be kind to one another, except for Billy when it comes to Kenny Pickett. Check in on your loved ones, especially when it comes to Billy and I talking about Kenny Pickett. And just really try to enjoy yourselves. We're in a really Billy took off. We're in a really special time right now in fantasy football, and it's one of the most fun times of the year for us and everyone listening. So stay tuned for everything else we have going on. Remember that clear eyes and full hearts can never lose, and that your best days, well, they're always spent tilting. Good night, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your week.
Billy, can you confirm if I got that right? Because I think that I did.
Yeah, nailed it.
Show that Billy posted a extremely tiny photo of a person, I spend so much time on Player Profiler correct Ryan Tannehill's neck.
Oh my god!
In one guess.
I don't know why I got the drive to do that.
That's why we do what we do here, guys, so we can look at necks. Good night, everybody.